Look at all of these wonderful faces. It's so nice to see so many of you on tonight. We're going to get started now as people still trickle in. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening as we celebrate these wonderful sisters, Peg Bouska, Sally McCoy, and Novak and Carol Bouska. This is our evening's agenda. First, I will give a brief update for those not familiar about practical farmers in general, and then I will give a short history of the Landowner Legacy Award and why we honor it every year. Then we will show a short video of a land walk that two of the Bouska sisters did on their land. The esteemed Teresa Opheim, past Practical Farmers Director, will then present the award to the Bouska sisters. Each sister will take a couple minutes to share some thoughts as they accept the award. Teresa will come back up and she'll share with us all some resources for others as they go down the journey of setting goals and communicating them with others about their farmland and farm transfer. And then we are going to wrap up the evening with a question and answer session that will include everybody involved, Teresa, Peg, Sally, Ann, and Carol. So please, as we go through, write down your questions because we would love to have a dynamic and engaging question and answer at the end of the night. So we'll go ahead and get started. Jorgen, all good? Anything else before we start?
I don't think so. I would just ask that if you're not actively asking a question or sharing a comment, to just keep yourself muted just for clarity's sake, and don't be offended if I mute you by force if there's some background noise coming through.
Jorgen has the muting power this evening, so he is the one who holds that this evening.
Try not to let it go to my head. Do we want to go ahead and share the video now?
Nope, I'm going to talk first and then we'll share the video. I will cue you up when it's time.
Perfect.
So as you can all see from the chat box, we have people joining us from across the country. I even saw a Hawaii in there. So thank you all for joining us for this very special evening. One of my favorite things about Practical Farmers is the people that I have already met and that are familiar to me, as well as the people I continue to meet. Practical Farmers is really all about building connections and building community. Practical Farmers was started in 1985. Its mission is to equip farmers to build resilient farms and communities. Farmers are very central to our work. They set our priorities, they govern the organization, and they advise us on many different committees. Farmers and members lead our events, our on-farm research, and we feature them prominently in our media. This year, as is the same for everybody, has not been what you would call a normal year. But as any farmer will tell you, normal doesn't really exist. So this year has in particular had some extra opportunities for us all to adapt. During a pandemic, civic unrest, drought, and a derecho if you are from Iowa, and if you're not, I'm sure you heard about our fun in August. Practical Farmers and its members have indeed continued to adapt. Members collaborated together. I see some of you on the call to get food to our communities quickly and safely when our grocery store shelves were empty, when they were depleted due to the pandemic. This really revealed the vulnerability of our current industrial food system, as well as the potential role local food farmers play and the resilience these farmers have built into their systems. When many lost power and had substantial damage from their derecho, other members reached out, stored people's products, and came out and physically helped with the cleanup. This year, we hosted our field days virtually, which was quite a learning experience for all of us. We also completed our strategic planning virtually, which was very successful. And we are all excited about the direction our soon to be revealed strategic plan will lead us in the next few years. Recently, about a week and a half ago, we completed some high tunnel builds. They were COVID safe, don't worry, but we helped 3 farmers rebuild from the derecho. And at the same time, we helped others learn how to construct high tunnels so they could go back and do the same on their farms. We're planning some fall socials, and we are also starting up a community connections committee to help supplant the one-on-one interactions that we usually get to experience in person at our events. We're in the midst of planning a top-notch conference titled Coming Home. This year, different than other years, you won't be driving through a blizzard to get to our conference. You will be joining in from the comforts of your own home, and we're very excited about that. And Practical Farmers continues to remain strong because of all of you, because of its network of committed and caring members. While 2020 hasn't been easy, Practical Farmers staff, board, and members aren't in this fight because it's easy. We are up to facing challenges, and 2020 is no different. That is because there is a very strong commitment to our vision, which is an Iowa with healthy soil, healthy food, clean air, clean water, resilient farms, and vibrant communities. And despite how special this year has been, Practical Farmers continues to grow in its membership and its efforts to reach this vision. And I want to thank all of you for your support and involvement in our efforts. We are excited and hopeful for Practical Farmers and for Iowa's future. Which really brings us to the significance of this evening's award. Let's talk a little bit about landowners. If you're not from Iowa, you might not know, but it's very interesting that 53% of our farmland is owned by non-operator landowners. These non-operator landowners hold great power in deciding what the future holds for our farmscape here in Iowa. Landowners have an option that many take, which is the path of least resistance for their farmland. This easy option most often leads to less conservation on the land, more farm consolidation, and less farmland access for beginning farmers. Yet we know that there are many beginning farmers who are eager to be the next generation of farmers, and land access is their #1 barrier. Or landowners can follow a more complex path, one that instills conservation and diversity on their farmland and paves the way for beginning farmers to gain land access. On this path, they will meet some resistance. It's neither simple nor easy, but this path is of utmost importance for our farming future here in Iowa. Practical Farmers started honoring non-operator farmland owners in 2013. Teresa Opheim, who is presenting today, was really the heart and soul of starting this. And it's a very important thing to honor. We did this to call attention to the urgent need for improved farmer-landowner relations, to call attention to the vital role that non-operators play in shaping our landscape, our rural communities, and opportunities for beginning farmers. This award highlights people who are using their role in land ownership to create an Iowa agriculture that is in line with their values and goals. By sharing these inspirational stories, we really hope to empower others to choose a path of resistance, a path that will result in diverse farms, healthy food, and vibrant communities. And Peg, Carol, Sally, and Ann are very deserving of this award. They are inspirational examples of the good things that landowners are doing. Before we get to the award presentation, Jorgen, now is your chance to shine. We are going to show a short video that features the Bouska sisters. The Bouskas are founding participants in a new initiative that is called the Climate Land Leaders. Landowners that are in this initiative are using their land to help address the climate crisis. And a key part of doing this, a key part of addressing the climate crisis is knowing your land and what it needs. So in this video, both Carol and Peg are filmed walking their land, something that all landowners should do if they have the opportunity. Due to COVID, only Carol and Peg were able to do the filming, but Ann and Sally were there in spirit. Now Jorgen is going to load this up to play. If you have anything that's running on your device that's sucking bandwidth, I would recommend that you turn it off so that you can watch this. If it isn't playing well for you, don't worry about it. It's only 6 minutes long, so just bear with us through that time. And Jorgen is also going to put the YouTube link into the chat box so that you can watch it at a later time if it's not working well right now. Okay, Jorgen, go ahead and play it.
So we're four sisters. We own a 450-acre farm in northeast Iowa. We inherited the farm in 2009, and we're the third generation on the farm. For the last 40 years or so, the farm's been pretty conventionally managed, and currently it's in corn and soybeans and alfalfa only. In the last few years, we sisters have really tried to educate ourselves and have taken some small steps in implementing more sustainable practices. But within the last 6 months, we've made the decision to take a big step to commit to achieving a regenerative agriculture model in the next 10 years.
So what is a land walk? A land walk is literally getting on your feet and walking the land, and it's a really different experience than driving around, and you get to see things from a different vantage point, and it's a way to observe a lot more than when you're in a vehicle, in a tractor or a car. So we hired Ecological Design to do a plan for us, and as part of that they recommended that we do a land walk, and they suggest every season you walk your land. But I was here in May, early May, and decided to, for a week, and I decided to do a land walk, and I went out for 5 days and walked pretty much all 450 acres. And when I was getting ready to do that, asked them what should I be looking for. So the things that they recommended were to look for erosion points, look at the soil types, look where animals are traveling through, living, water flow, to look at water flow, and to look at wind, and rocky places where there are tire ruts, things like that. So I set out to do that. To prepare for a land walk, there's some things that we learned that are helpful to take along. First thing is a clipboard. It's really nice to have something that you can secure, and like even with these little binder clips, it helps to keep things from flying around. Another thing is binoculars. They can get a little bit heavy, but it's nice to be able to see something in the distance. A little trowel, so you can get some dig in the dirt and see what the soil's like. And finally, GPS. I took my phone and took a lot of pictures, but it's nice to be able to mark your location with GPS. So that's a helpful tool. So in preparation for doing the walk, I printed out a web soil survey and also did some aerial views of the farm. So at the end of my walk, then I was able to put all of these spots that I identified, and we'll add to this on this map. It's probably a real living document, so we'll keep working on it. On the soil map, what does it say, Peg, in terms of what is this? What type?
Okay, so we're just adjacent to the waterway, right?
North of that little waterway.
34.
Okay. I'm going to just write it down. We can talk about it later.
What did you learn from that?
From that walk?
Yeah.
Well, I think that eroded area was kind of a new finding, but just how deep that gully got since I was here, and that's significant. So there's like a really significant water flow through here.
Right here, this is where the waterway ends.
The grassway ends, yep.
This is switchgrass.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
That looks nice.
Oh, makes me think of Dad.
Dad planted that, many, many years ago.
He was really proud of that.
He loved switchgrass.
We're really connected to this land. Our dad was born on this property, and he died on this property, and some of his ashes are resting on this property, along with 3 other people in our family who have died. And so this is a very meaningful place to us. We're connected to it, and we want to leave a legacy of doing something with this land that is going to be moving forward and contributing in a big way. And that's why we've decided to do this project with regenerating this land.
Some of us were built to roam.
Well, that certainly is a great video, especially since Shaky Graves was part of the soundtrack. So thank you for letting us share that this evening. And now Teresa will take the stage and present the award to the Bouska sisters.
I don't know who that is, Sally. That's how much younger you are than I am. So I want to thank Practical Farmers of Iowa for having this award program and acknowledging the role that non-operator landowners can play for a sustainable future. As one of the Bouskas said the other day, PFI is a class act, and that's really for sure. I also want to acknowledge the past winners of this award who are on this call. Dale Nimrod is here, and Maggie McCowan and Steve Turman, and Susan Fleming. Susan, if your last name is not Fleming, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember. And Helen Gunderson. Dear Helen has said she was getting on, so I think we'll assume she's on. So thank you all for getting on to help celebrate the wonderful sisters for tonight's award. So I decided to nominate the Bouska sisters for this award for a couple of reasons. They care very well for each other, and they also care for the planet. First, I wanted to talk about how they care for each other. You know how there are some kids who everybody says, oh, you raised them so well, they turned out so well. And, you know, a lot of times that's kind of luck, as all of us who are parents know. But in Anne and Sally and Peg and Carol's situation, I don't think it was luck, because their parents must have done a wonderful job. They are all 4 of them so caring, compassionate, considerate, supportive. Over and over again, I've seen it on emails and on climate land leader calls, and I think the rest of the climate land leaders have as well. Is Angela Tedesco on the phone or on the call too? She's a winner as well. Hi, Angela. So It is really easy to tell families to talk with each other about farm succession issues, and it is very hard to do so. According to Kathy Roof, who's a farm transitions expert with a wonderful group called Land for Good, the hard issues, such as communicating with your family, are really soft issues. Turning over a farm to the next generation is more about family relations than it is about transferring title to land. Setting goals as a family, clarifying your values, and communicating well, these are all critical to successful transition. And she goes on to say, and I kind of agree with this, the details are not that complicated, and there are a host of qualified attorneys and financial advisors who can help you get there, but they can't help you do the communication with each other and relationship building in the first place. So Carol, Peg, Sally, and Ann have worked really hard at communications. And this can't always have been easy. I'm sure there were a lot of bumps along the road. I don't want to know any more details about them, but I'm sure there were. But they've gone ahead and tackled all of the issues that have come up. And it's very clear that their relationship to each other is paramount. It's far more important than a piece of land, as important as it is. So they have taken the time and energy to do what many families do not do, and that's why they're winners tonight. There are a variety of things they do. They have regular calls. They have an extensive email communication. Every sister has a say. They make decisions together. They each have expertise that they appreciate about the other sisters. They took the time to have a retreat with each other. I think it was in beautiful Decorah, if not close by, and took the time to reflect and write farm legacy letters where they talked about the past on their farm and the current and their future goals. And they hired an independent facilitator to help them work out what they're going to do for the future. They attend a lot of conferences and Zoom calls. They are the kind of people, they're all four mover and shaker people. They're involved in a lot of different organizations and initiatives, and they're bringing what they learned to those initiatives, and they're also teaching others about what they've done. One of my favorite moments was when they came into a conference about a year ago on perennial agriculture. Here they file in. I didn't know they were all coming, but all four of them came from their various homes in Washington State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa to come together to learn at this conference and then meet afterwards and debrief what they had learned. So they have experienced family tragedy in significant ways. And as they mentioned in the Land Walk video, their farm land is a way that they bring together the family and honor their dead. They are exploring various scenarios for their own demise, and that's not easy to think about, but necessary if you really want to leave a lasting legacy. And they have fun together. I'm fortunate to be able to see that on a regular basis. PFI staffer Tamsin Jones does an excellent job of summarizing their journey in the latest PFI newsletter. So I really urge you to check that out and read the whole thing. There's also a blog on the PFI website that goes into some more detail about some of the steps they've taken. So those are all the soft issues that really are hard issues and vice versa. And we need a lot more examples of families who have taken the time to do it right. All of this takes a lot of time, a lot of patience with each other, leadership skills and being able to facilitate conversations, make sure everybody's been heard, a continued willingness to learn. So they're great PFI members because of that. And understanding when they need outside help to help them work through issues, and respect of and enjoy joy for each other. I also thought they would be excellent award winners because of their care for the planet. Because of our inability to limit greenhouse gas emissions, we are altering our planet so radically and so quickly that there's going to be a lot more suffering. for the farmers unable to accommodate 12-inch rains at a time, for all those living in urban areas that are becoming increasingly stifling heat sinks, for those living in coastal areas that are getting flooded out, for all of you, including Ruth Rabinowitz on this call, who have experienced the pain of the wildfires in California this year and the dry West that's particularly supposed to continue. For all of the beings we share this sphere with. As PFI member Steve Turman, who's on the call here, I can see him in my 6 people here. He wrote a farm legacy letter that's included in this book of legacy letters. And he says, we are degrading our biosphere in a way that harms the basis of human civilization and the web of life we take for granted. As the Bouska sisters know, those who have the good fortune of owning farmland have a critical part to play in caring for the planet. In a massive research project called Project Drawdown, researchers have found that 16 of the top 25 solutions for drawing down carbon are land use and food related. And the Bouskas are really ready to get started on this drawdown. This past year, they came together to set an ambitious goal to turn their 450 acres into a regenerative farm. So the changes they will be making over the years will keep their soil covered, will increase diversity on the land with plants and animals, keep roots in the ground year round, and work to minimize the disturbance of the soil. Those principles of soil health that NRCS has very expertly got down to its essence, I'd say. Recently, I listened to a dynamic talk by a woman named Catherine Wilkinson, and she's from that Project Drawdown I mentioned, and she described the type of leadership we need in this time. Leaders who are focused on compassion, connection, creativity, care, and collaboration. And I thought of these 4 sisters when she said that. Says Wilkinson, we are a miracle. Our task and opportunity is to face a seemingly impossible challenge and act in service of what is possible. We have an invitation to build a human society that participates in the planet's living systems in generous and cooperative ways. Because Practical Farmers of Iowa is such a practical group, I want to end by bringing us down from this zoomed out look of planet Earth down to the Bouska's 450-acre farm in Northeast Iowa. These women are good communicators, but they're also doers. They hadn't walked the land since they were young, so Peg and Carol got out and did it, and Sally and Ann would have joined them if they could. I asked them if we could film that land walk, and they said yes, in the hopes that others will do the same. They've explored their soils this year, and Carol was out the other day taking film of grabbing a soil sample that she shared with her sisters, and it was really fun watching. And they just filmed their tenant planting his first cover crop. They joined Climate Land Leaders earlier this year when we started the project, and their 2020 goals are ambitious. Getting a regenerative ag design completed, and ecological design is helping with them. Paula Westmoreland may be on the call here. Working with their renter, Tom, to put in 162 acres of cover crops. Exploring adding prairie strips to their farm, which they may do next year, and hiring a forester to help them manage their woodlot. I really look forward to seeing what Highland Farm is going to look like in 10 years. And I hope the younger generation will look forward to seeing what it will look like in 50 years. Carol, Peg, Ann, and Sally, I am pleased to present you with the 2020 Farmland Legacy Award.
Yay.
Thank you all so much. I'm Peg. I want to thank you, PFI, for the award, and all of you for all your support. All y'all, shout out to the Southern Bouska family. We want to recognize our great privilege to own this land and that the first people to live on it were displaced. This includes the Sac and Fox tribe, the Meskwaki Nation, who still reside in Iowa. This legacy process has led us to grapple with that fact. Our start in this legacy work several years ago was primarily with tools from PFI. One of the most helpful was Teresa Opheim's Future Family Farms book that she put up for about 1 second, but this is a fabulous book. And we also used a workbook that made huge difference and helped us get started. Working through that process over an extended period of time had helped us to come up with 4 common goals for the land. And those were to provide safe and healthy food, maintain family harmony, to keep the land out of the hands of corporate agriculture, and to improve the soil and water quality, increase biodiversity, and promote sustainability and vitality of the rural community, including those who work the land. We really appreciate this honor and thank PFI and all those who came before us. Sally?
Hold on, Sally, you're muted.
Thank you, Peg. We want to acknowledge all the help that we have gotten along the way. We grew up on the farm, but we are not farmers. We all have different careers. We did learn, however, that we had different gifts and talents that were valuable in the process of learning about ag. Working together over the past 10 years, we learned to respect the gifts and talents that we brought to the table, and we divided up tasks that we had according to those talents. We also recognized that we really needed a lot of help from other people, and we got this professional help. We got legal help, as Teresa said, to set up the partnership in 2013. We sought skilled facilitation to clarify our vision from Rena Striegel last year. And to fill out this vision for the farm, we needed a design on the transition to regenerative agriculture, which came from the talents of ecological design firm. We found out there's a vast network of information on conservation in agriculture, and we used it, signing up for trainings individually and then bringing that information back to the sister group. We drew from many sources, including Practical Farmers of Iowa, Sustainable Farming Association, NRCS, Women in Food and Agriculture, Moses, Savannah Institute, and others, most recently our partners in Climate Land Leaders. Finally, we want to acknowledge the assistance of our long-term tenant, Tom, who started renting the land from our dad in the early 80s. When our dad died in 2009, Tom expressed interest in continuing the relationship with us. His deep knowledge and experience with the land is so important. We respect his role in this endeavor. We are blessed. Anne?
You're also muted, Anne. Hold on 1 minute. There we go.
Yes, hi. I'm going to probably reiterate a little bit that Teresa has said, because We have worked really hard as four sisters and partners to communicate by email and text. We document our activities. We're actually having at least monthly meetings, sometimes twice a month, and it keeps us all in the loop. I want to mention that you will read this in our article, but we have not mentioned our dear brother Jack, who we miss, and we think about him often. He has a pollinator field on the farm, and he's with us. We all live in different states, so communicating is challenging. We've been careful about how we share where we are in our process of change with our children, extended family, and people outside the family. We discuss what to share and when, which has united us as a team, and of course is kind of challenging, but we found that the timing is really important. And so that takes a lot of coordination. We want the next generation to hear us with one voice. This honors our goals to maintain family harmony and preserves our parents' wish for us to live harmoniously and carry that on with the land and with each other. It also honors our ancestors who brought us to this journey. We know that we would not be able to do this partnership as four very strong women without the support of our spouses and children. We appreciate their understanding and encouragement as we continue to work even more intently together as partners. Carol?
These are our parents. They were incredible people, and we're very lucky to have had them as parents. One of the many things that they gave us is that they planned ahead for their deaths. Our dad was forward thinking, and he started talking about dying when he was 60, really. And he died just weeks shy of 92. So we were prepared. Our mom was a very fun person who had a big heart. And our sister, Mary Jane, who died suddenly in 1991, was like our mom. She was very fun and free-spirited. We honor Mom and Mary Jane when we have fun together, which we do a lot. After our parents died, the four of us sisters and Jack created a legal partnership. We had equal shares and a partner agreement. When we created the agreement, we had to talk about succession and the what ifs if one of us died. It was not easy. It took a lot of conversations and some tears, but we were so grateful that we did that work when Jack passed away just a year later unexpectedly. We honor our brother Jack by using his many sayings, and he had a lot of them, and by joking with each other and teasing each other. Jack's death created urgency to our legacy planning, and we are really committed to doing this for each other and for our kids, and of course, for the land that we love. I think it's important to say that this is not easy work, but we are committed to it, and we have a certain peace in knowing that we're doing it now. We've been working together for 10 years, and we are now entering into this new phase with ecological design to develop our vision and plan. This has given us new focus and energy, and it's made us feel very excited and enthusiastic about leaving our own legacy. Thank you to everybody who helped us get to where we are today. And thank you, Teresa, especially. She's been pushing us along the way. And thank you, PFI. This really means a lot to us.
I hope. Let me hope you could all see all the videos applauding, even if we can't hear it. So Teresa, you're going to share some resources with us now.
Yeah. Well, I think you just heard some of the greatest resources right there. And I'm hoping if there are questions, they go to Carol and Peg and Ann and Sally and others who've gone through this journey. In my particular family, my parents are both still alive, and we have not really gone through the land transition journey yet. The Bouskas have encouraged and inspired me to go walk our farmland, which I was going to do next week. We'll see if the snow melts. I guess I should have gotten there earlier. I really like the quote, "We want the next generation to hear us as one voice." And that's a really ambitious and admirable goal. So I just want to mention a couple resources. The Bouskas are really interested in exploring their legacy. They talked a little bit about that. One of the resources I really recommend is Helen Gunderson's The Road I Grew Up On. She has a website that's Gunderfriend, GUNDERFRIEND.com. And her final book will be published soon, and I encourage you to get a copy. What's wonderful about this book is that Helen has meticulously documented agriculture in the 20th century. The particular county she is from is the same one my family is from, but you will recognize so much about what she has in the book, and I think it'll really inspire you to learn more about your own land. There on the PFI website, there is a form as well as this booklet here where you can write a farm legacy letter. And I think it would be great to have all the younger generation, for example, interview the older generation and write a real quick letter. I think what that gets at is the heart and soul of what this legacy planning is about. What's also wonderful about this resource, it is just filled with the people who've already gone through this journey and their advice to you. So for example, Paul Ackley, a PFI member from Southwest Iowa, talks about writing a legacy letter. Maggie and Steve, who are on the call here, have talked about the conversations they've had and their commitment to conservation. There's just a whole lot of wisdom from the Practical Farmers membership there. Peg started by acknowledging the people who came before us on this land. There's a wonderful website called native-land.ca that you can get on and very quickly find which Native American communities were in your part of the state or the country. That website also discusses and talks about the treaties that were signed and then broken. You can learn a lot more by going to that. I'm very embarrassed, chagrined to admit to you that this book includes very little about the people who had our land and who we stole it from. Goal setting is just so important, and that sounds so obvious, but there's a lot of work to be done to set an appropriate goal for the future of your farmland. That's discussed in this book. I know PFI has a lot of other resources as well, but I don't think we can have it all. I think you have to make some choices. Dale Nimrod, who's on this call, he and his siblings made the choice that they wanted a family on their land, living and farming it. That's a different goal than getting top dollar for your farmland. And they worked out an arrangement where they met their top goal. For Helen Gunderson, she has a top goal of conservation. She's donated some of her land to the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation already and is providing valuable pollinator habitat. If you have a next generation farming, your goal may be to make sure that that son or daughter can continue farming, and that may mean that the other siblings don't get their siblings don't get an equal share. That's an okay goal as long as you've gone through the process of deciding and sharing, communicating with your family. So I lastly just wanted to share a few communications gems that I learned from the wisdom of the people at Practical Farmers of Iowa through the years. And then I think we should just have a discussion after that. These are communications tips, really. I remember, see, Linda Lynch, who farms with her husband near Gilmore City, she talked about how you have to communicate early and often about these significant goals that you're setting for your farmland. They're really, really significant, but the next generation might forget. I'm forgetting all kinds of things, you know, and like how our farm transition is set up. So her advice was that you just have to keep mentioning it year after year, which seems odd, but I know that it's true. I think we don't spend enough time about the rest, about the best form of communication when we're communicating with each other. For some, it's in-person meetings, and the Bouska sisters do that when they can. For other families, that is absolutely the wrong strategy for starting. An email or a letter communication might be first. A number of PFI members taught me to be careful about how you approach these important communications. Documentation is another very important thing that a number of members taught me, that all important decisions must be documented in writing and agreed to by the family members. Again, we forget, we interpret conversations differently, all of that. And then finally, I just want to mention that getting an independent facilitator like the Bouskas did, another of the Farmland Award winners who are not on tonight also recommended that, Martha Skillman and Charlotte Shivers, I think maybe Jim Peterson, who they sold their land to, might be on the call. I saw him on the RSVP list. They spent, I don't know, something like 13 years with a facilitator trying to work through their differences with their now deceased sister as well, to try and figure out what they wanted for their land. That's a long time, but that's how long it took. So those are just some of the thoughts and resources that come to mind. The PFI website has a lot of profiles and blogs about people like Dale Nimrod on the call, Angela Tedesco, Maggie and Steve, all of the people who have done a lot of work in this area and are willing to share what they've gone through and what they've learned. And they really are experts, not me. That's all I would like to say, Jorgen, if you want to open it up for discussion or questions, and especially I'd like to hear from the Bouskas about what other wisdom they want to share.
Can I mention very quickly that we've been pasting a lot of links into the chat as resources have been mentioned. So those are there available for you, but I know there's been a lot of things flung around. So as always, you can feel free to reach out and get in touch, and we can maybe point you in the right direction. But there are some links in the chat of various things we talked about.
Excellent.
And I'll continue to do that as we go through Q&A.
Thank all of you for such a thoughtful presentation. What an inspiring night. I am so just goosebumpy over here. Is that a word? I'm goosebumpy. Teresa mentioned, so I'm going to ask that you start putting your questions in the chat box. If you would like to ask your question verbally, raise your hand either physically or with your little thing, if you hit participants, you can find a raise hand queue. But please start putting your questions in the chat box or raise your hand so we can have a really engaging discussion. Teresa had mentioned a really nice article that Tamsin Jones wrote on the sisters. If you're scrounging through your magazines to see where that is, you haven't seen it yet because it's in the magazine that's at print right now. So be excited that you will be getting that really soon. And if you aren't a member, you're very welcome to join, and then we will mail that magazine to you as well. If you aren't a member and don't join, you just have a little bit of delay, but you will all get the article eventually. Jorgen also mentioned our landowner webpage, our farm transfer webpage, and we also have quarterly newsletters, both for farm transfer and for landowner, and you can sign up for those on our website at Get Involved, and Jorgen just posted that into the chat box as well. Okay, I have one question on here for the sisters, or for Tom perhaps, if he wants to answer that, because I saw him on the call. The question is, how did your tenant follow you through this transition?
I can say something about that. I think that Tom was almost like, this is a different Tom who's on the call tonight. So I don't think our tenant Tom is on, but I think one of the sisters mentioned that Tom had been working for our dad and mom for several years, and they developed a really close relationship. And so when they died, you know, we wanted to maintain that relationship. And I think over the last 10 years, we've really asked him for his input. And now as we're getting more educated, we're starting to share what we're learning and have made a decision to be very upfront with him about any changes that we're going to make long in advance. And I think that he's really appreciated that. So it's kind of a give and take. Does anybody else want to say anything about that?
Yeah, this is Anne. I just want to say, oh, I guess I got to do this. I just want to say that this is his first year of doing cover crops on our property, on our farm. And it sounds like he was pretty excited about it. So that was cool. We want him to be happy, and we're going to try to work with him more all the time. Thanks.
How did you get him to plant cover crops? Did you give some kind of financial incentive? Just tell him he had to plant them? How did that go?
About that a little bit.
Go ahead.
I could speak. We offered to pay for the seed. We'll be paying for the seed. We did apply for an NRCS grant cost share, which will cover the seed and a little bit more. So we're planning to probably, you know, reimburse him for some of his time and machinery use and some of the adjustments that he had to make in order to incorporate this. And in terms of cover crops, which many of you know, it may take a few years for that effort to show up in productivity changes with the crop, which is, you know, his part of it as far as his livelihood. So we're trying to be respectful of that and give him, you know, some compensation for his time and so forth.
Okay, there's another question. If you had not formed your partnership or used a facilitator, where do you think your farm would be now?
That's a tough one. I don't even know if I could predict that. Anybody else?
Well, I think that we were fortunate to get the right people involved at the right time. So when Jack was still living, we ended up finding a great lawyer in Iowa, and Decorah, and he kind of guided us to form an LLP. And I think along the way, then last year when we hired Rena to help us with the vision, it just, anytime we hired someone, it made such a difference because their expertise just sort of catapulted us to a new level, I think. So when it was right for us to get outside expertise, it really helped us. And I think if we hadn't done that, we would just be trying to figure this all out ourselves and struggling a little bit. And that was, I mean, we may still have made some of the same decisions, but I think it has given us a lot more confidence that we're moving together. And I think we're moving together faster.
That's a good answer. Okay, next question. Can you please describe in a little bit more detail the plan for transitioning your farm to regenerative agriculture?
It's a very detailed plan. I think it would be very difficult to describe in a brief time, but it's a 10-year plan, so it will be done in steps. And we have enough flexibility in the plan so that we will be adjusting depending upon how each of the steps go.
Right. I'd like to bring up something.
Go ahead, Ann.
Okay. I think Carol kind of covered this, but we have recognized that it's not good to make legacy decisions when you're grieving. And I think that we all feel that that's real important to think about. It's hard to face your own death and say, well, if one of us dies, what's going to happen? But having faced that with Jack, we were propelled forward more. But I really encourage people to take the steps they need to, even if it's just your house or your property. It's a sign of love to those you leave behind that you've taken care of it. You're loving them.
Another, someone mentioned Map of My Kingdom, which was one of the first initiatives that I was exposed to that helped me to start moving in this direction with our family. And my friends Colette and Bill invited me to go to West Branch to Scattergood School to see I think it was the first performance. Mary Swander, who's on the call, wrote the play, commissioned the play with PFI and wrote it and performed it. And that was amazing night. There was a big storm that night at PFI. I mean, at Scattergood, we thought we might have to go in some shelter somewhere, but it turned out great. So thank you, Mary, for all that work and foresight and PFI.
Oh, well, thank you for being in the audience.
Some answers to some other questions that are brief are, they are an LLP and they planted cereal rye as a cover crop. Then Mary, go ahead if you want to say something. Nice to see you tonight.
Good to see you too. Yeah, well, it's been quite a journey with Farmland Transition and Map of My Kingdom. we were still touring the play until March hit us this year, but we've got a show coming up online for the Kansas Community Foundation National Conference that PFI helped sponsor. So you can tune in there. So the beat goes on, and it's just been great to work with so many of you on this issue. It's really great to see what the sisters have done here. There should be like a song, the Bouska sisters, and what they have done.
Carol was singing before we all came on, so maybe
don't get me started.
Oh, goody.
Okay, a question about your tenant. How old is Tom? And I'm assuming this question is to see how open he is to change. And I know you said he'd been with your dad since the early 80s, if that gives any insight to that.
He's 64 or 65. And we also have had some pretty open discussions with him about how much longer he wants to farm. And he has a daughter who just recently came back. She was an art teacher, and she came back to farm. So that's kind of given us some new energy too. We're excited about that, and that there's some real possibilities there.
That's fantastic. Okay, what if you have a really bright and conscientious tenant who communicates well, is farming organically with an openness to regenerative practices? Would you take the lead from this person? What can your resources tell you as a landowner that this person would not be aware of?
I would say, like, great. we would love to have somebody who is kind of pushing us too. Well, we're just kind of getting started with the regenerative agriculture implementation or transition, but I don't know what our resources could tell us that that person doesn't know, but that your farmer doesn't know. But the women that we are working with are just amazing. They look at the whole picture, the land, the economic issues, the social issues in the community, the history. They're very comprehensive in how they're helping us. And I think we appreciate that holistic view.
One of the issues that we've been thinking about a fair amount is wanting to make sure that folks who are going to be working the land will have support in the community and will feel a part of the community. And that whole idea of the vitality of the rural community that we want to contribute to. So that's a little challenging, and it's hard to know which to start with. You start with changing some of the practices on the land, or do you get a farmer or farm family or a couple farm families that are interested and knowledgeable in doing some things first? We aren't there yet of figuring all that out, but we're working on it.
Sounds like we'll need to have you at the conference at some point to show your 10-year plan.
I wanted to say something about Tom in terms of his contributions. He was the person who recommended that we have our first pollinator area, because there was a little corner of a field that was hard for him to get his equipment in, and it was kind of wet. So he recommended that we put in a pollinator field there. And that was the one that Jack was very excited about getting researching the seed for and everything. So that's one of the reasons we named it Jack's Field. And since then, We put in 2 other big pollinator fields named after mom and dad. But that was one of the big contributions that Tom made in the beginning, was to work with us on what his experience of the land was like and how it might fit in with some of what we were interested in.
I think the other thing about working with Tom, our renter, is that we have always acknowledged that he knows the land better than we do. And he's working on it all the time. And so he has an expertise or just a deep knowledge of all those things that I was talking about in the video, where the low spots are, where the water's flowing. He knows that because he's working that land. And so we respect him tremendously, even though he's a more conventional farmer than the direction we want to go. We do not discount his knowledge at all. We really respect him.
It's nice that you have that practical experience, or he has that practical experience he brings to help meet your goals. Okay, so this question is extra meaningful since your dad started planning for his death 32 years before it happened. Have you continued to plan for what will happen to the farm when the 4 of you are no longer here?
Well, we have a transition plan for each person's share when that person is deceased, how that legally will go on. So that piece of it is set up because we don't know when any one person, I mean, Jack happened to be the oldest, but our experience with death is that it can happen to anybody at any time. Our brother and sister died very unexpectedly, which left a big mark on us of the fact that it can happen to anybody at any time.
And I think now that we're doing this regenerative agriculture transition, we're kind of keeping this open. If a farm family showed up and was wanting to live on the farm or whatever, we would have to really face, are we ready to make that transition? And we have not made any of those decisions yet because we're still in this planning phase. But I feel confident that all the work that we've done together and the honest conversations that we've had and the people that we have helping us going forward, that we'll be able to make those decisions together. And I used to feel worried about it, and now I'm feeling much more confident that we can do this together.
I'd like to share something that Kate put in the chat box. I'm assuming she's related to you. She wrote, "I don't think it's possible to overstate how many ripple effects the deep work you have done has on the next generation. You demonstrate a lifelong love of learning and deep commitment to the land and our human connections to it." So I think that bodes well for the future of this land beyond your generation. So kudos to all of you for that. Okay, we stayed on time so well. I know there are a couple of questions that we didn't get answered. I hope we can continue this conversation many times into the future with this very special group of sisters. But we are at the end of our time this evening. Do you have any parting words, Peg, Carol, Ann, or Sally, before I close it up for the evening?
Thank you all for the support and the honor.
Yes. And I think every step of our journey helps us work more closely together and feel more powerful and propel forward.
I guess my parting statement would be is that in the article, I said that an important part of our working together was to do the hard work and then have fun after that. So meetings on the farm when we had difficult discussions, we would go swimming and then have ice cream after that. I highly recommend that plan, is to do the hard work and then have fun.
Well, thank you all very much for all of the inspiring work you've done. You are just such a deserving family for this award this year. And I am so pleased with how this came together. And Rob, I agree. We have more connections because of this virtual event, and this has just been a really amazing evening. So again, congratulations to you all, and thank all of you for taking the time this evening to join us to celebrate these beautiful and accomplished women tonight. I hope you have a very good evening. Congratulations, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.